While researching for this video, it surprised me to learn that HS1 was the first new mainline railway to be built in the UK for about 100 years, running the 68 miles from St Pancras International Station in London to the Channel Tunnel. The proposed HS2 line connecting London, Birmingham, Leeds, Manchester and Liverpool is only about 150 miles long in total, including the connections to existing lines, including to HS1. HS2 will probably happen in some reduced form, but I don't see this being completed as was originally proposed. The section of the HS1 line I'm flying along is about 45 miles from where it passes under the Thames to the point where it goes underground just north of Folkestone before crossing beneath the channel. There is a short section of HS1 to the north of the Thames, but I didn't bother videoing this part of the line just in case I strayed into London City Airport's airspace. Also, once the line enters the urban environment for about 20 miles from Dartford to St Pancras International, it tends to blend into the surroundings and is less interesting than when it's in a rural setting. After passing beneath the Thames, the line surfaces on the edge of Swanscombe Marshes in North Kent, about 1.5 miles from Ebbsfleet International Station, where trains used to stop, but since COVID in March 2020, trains have not stopped at Ebbsfleet. Now, with typical British organisation, if you live in Kent or Essex and want to use Ebbsfleet Station, you have to board a domestic train at Ebbsfleet for the 20-minute journey into London St Pancras. At St Pancras you can board a Euro Star train which goes back past Ebbsfleet where you were a couple of hours earlier, and if you're very lucky you might get a good view of your car in the car park as the train passes through. After passing over Ebbsfleet Station, the line closely follows the route of the A2, which becomes the M2 just after Cobham. The purple line on the Sky Demon chart shows the track of my flight to Folkestone and the reverse track back to North Weald. The two red arrows indicate the section of the outbound flight where I've not used most of the video. The outbound video cuts out just after Ebbsfleet and starts again a few miles from Folkestone. I've inserted a number of my photographs taken over the years to show a bit more detail of the ground features, and I've used red circles to match points on the video and the photographs as a reference. As I approach Folkestone, the first area I pass over is the Dollans Moor Freight Yard, which is used mainly for locomotive and crew changes as well as train security and safety checks. Shortly after the freight yard is the main Eurotunnel facility where both commercial and non-commercial vehicles drive onto the trains to cross into France via the Channel Tunnel. After the outbound southeasterly pass over the Eurotunnel facility, I carried out a left 180-degree turn to position for the return flight tracking along the line of the HS1. As I pass over the main Eurotunnel facility, I've indicated where vehicles enter the site and are separated into commercial and non-commercial for loading into the two different types of wagons for the crossing beneath the channel. I've taken both commercial and non-commercial vehicles to France via the tunnel, and I believe it's still the case that with cars you drive into the carriages and stay with your vehicle in the carriage, whereas the commercial vehicles are driven onto the train and the drivers leave their vehicles, walk to the club car where there used to be complimentary food available. It's been a few years since I've used this service. Maybe someone can tell me if it still works this way. A few minutes flying after Dollond's Moor Freight Yard and I pass over the Folkestone motorway services situated between the HS1 tracks and the M20 motorway. At just over 6 miles from the Eurotunnel facility is the National Grid's Sellinge substation, which is the British terminal station of the HVDC cross-channel, the name given to the two different high voltage direct current connections that operate under the English Channel between the continental European and British electricity grids. This has a transmission capacity of 1,000 megawatts, with the Channel Tunnel being used to make the connection between the UK and France. Just under 12 miles from Folkestone is Ashford, which is easily identified with its designer outlet market, constructed to form a distinctive white tear shape which can be seen from miles away in the air. This distinctive shaped market is a good visual reference to confirm an aircraft's position, and anyone who's flown into Headcorn from the east would probably call them up when overhead or near Ashford for airfield information. Opposite the market on the other side of the HS1 tracks is the Hitachi depot where the Class 935 Javelin high-speed trains are maintained. The 935 trains operate on HS1 from St Pancras into Kent. Like Ebbsfleet, Ashford has an international train station on the HS1 line where the Euro Star trains don't stop. After leaving Ashford, the HS1 tracks curve gently to the east to cross over the M20, putting the tracks on the east side of the motorway, where they stay until they reach Bluebell Hill Tunnel just before Rochester Airport. I was based at Rochester Airport for a few years, and I knew when returning to the airport, on reaching Leeds Castle, I was 8 miles from the airport, so I would call for airport information. The HS1 track runs right next to the M2 motorway at the end of runway 02 at Rochester, but as I was not obviously intending to land at Rochester on this flight, I had to avoid the Rochester air traffic zone. I flew around the air traffic zone as shown on the SkyDemon chart, arriving back overhead the HS1 tracks and A2 just south of Gravesend. From here the HS1 tracks pass under the A2, then to Ebbsfleet and on to the tunnel beneath the Thames. I've circled the tunnel entrance at Swanscombe on the Kent side as well as the tunnel entrance on the Essex side. It looks as though the line curves slightly beneath the river. On the Essex side, I've circled where the tracks surface in Purfleet and where they pass under the M25 QE2 bridge. There is another 4 miles of track after the QE2 bridge before entering London City airport controlled airspace, but in my opinion not worth the risk of accidentally busting their airspace.